I don't think I'm there in what, 15 years, but I just want to see.
Okay, guys, why don't we get started? On the bridge, we have 39 people. I was hoping to hit a century. Where are the other 60? But these guys cannot see. Here we have the entire room full, right?
Yeah.
Okay, normally I would do introductions, but maybe there are too many people. So if you guys have questions, just shout it out. Okay, so folks on the bridge, if you have questions, how will this work? Pratyusha, they will say they have a question, and then, yeah?
They can type it in the chat box and then we can unmute them.
Okay, so Pratyusha, our new team member, say hello to Pratyusha. She joined last week.
Hi. I'm the new junior consultant.
So if you guys have questions or comments, just ping Pratyusha. She is monitoring. And we'll try to make it as interactive as possible. Okay. This hybrid thing is not something I'm used to, so we'll give it a shot. Okay. So thank you, guys. Based on popular demand, we decided to do a 6-series AI workshop. Today is the first session. It is always useful to look back before we look ahead. So today I'll talk about how we got here and then build on it in future sessions. I hope you open it up. Okay, thank you. I think Pratyusha is doing that.
Hi.
Okay. Okay, so how many of you think we are in an AI hype cycle? Just raise your hand. No, either the hand is like this or like this, not like this. Okay, 50% in the room think we are in a hype cycle. Just type it out in chat if you guys think we are in a hype cycle. There are 44 of you on the bridge. My goal today is to convince you that we are actually at the very beginning of a 10, 20, 30-year trend. We are absolutely not in a hype cycle. Daniel, she's accepting. Yeah. Okay. So you guys have seen this cartoon, right? The magic of AI. It's somebody poking fun at somebody. Here's how I think about AI. Today we talk about hallucinations. Today we say, well, AI is something we cannot rely on. We can do some research. We can have AI write a poetry. But we don't want to rely on AI when I go to the doctor. There is a risk that we might get sued. My vision over the next 5 years is AI is going to be so good that if my doctor is not using AI, I'm going to sue him or her. Right? I may not do that, but it's a good way to think about it. I'm writing a book. It's called The Era of Possibility, and I'll talk about what that means. So you guys will have a copy of these slides. So I put some more slides than we'll talk to. But just to level set everyone, this is the 6-part series. Today we'll talk about how we got here. In the next 2 sessions, we'll talk about the opportunities from different industry perspective, healthcare, education, retail, and we'll talk about it from a function perspective. Teaching, marketing, sales, customer support. I've been doing a lot of consulting, so I have real life examples of how these companies are implementing AI across different sectors and across different functions. In the third session, we'll talk about opportunities to start a venture. The venture can be a startup outside, or it can be a venture inside the enterprise. And there are 15 or 20 of you who are investors. So I'll also talk about opportunities for investors. Where do investors want to put their money? Okay. I am generally very positive about AI, but there are things to worry about. We'll talk about privacy. We'll talk about ethics. We'll talk about legal issues. We'll talk about geopolitical issues. We'll talk about fragmentation. The primary reason to talk about that is to be aware around what's happening so we can do something about it. It does not take away from the opportunity. So the first 4 sessions will be hybrid. The last 2 will be in person. The reason they are in person is it is difficult to get engaged if I cannot see 50 people on the bridge, right? So the 5th session, we'll have a workshop style, 90 minutes, go through the different tools. How can you create PowerPoint and animation and logo and on and on and on. And then the last session, I'm actually teaching a class here every Monday, 7 to 10. We are incubating 8 startups. We will have some of those startups here and a couple other startups from the audience. If you guys are interested, if you're a startup founder and interested in pitching in the last session, reach out to me, okay? And we'll have judges. Daniel is here. Daniel has been promoting AI inside Knauss School. So thank you, Daniel. And we'll have Daniel as one of the judges. Okay. So again, you'll have these slides. I have written down exactly what we'll cover. Let's go to the first session. So who's in the audience? As of this morning, we had about 125 people registered. We have 50 on the bridge and about 20 here. So half of them are showing up today, or 60%. You guys are, 55% of you are startups. Maybe 75% are already working with Brink. The other 25% are not. I'll touch on what is Brink, and we would welcome you to join Brink so we can support your mission. We have a few students and faculty. We have about 15% of you are investors, about 20 of you are investors, and then some people from the industry. The last 2 sessions, we really want to have investors and startups in the same room, so you guys can say hello to each other, okay? I see many familiar faces, so you guys know me, but to keep it short, I worked at Intel for a couple decades. I worked at Qualcomm for a decade. I started a few businesses. Yes, Ashruti, I started working when I was 5, just so you're doing the right. Right now, I've become an AI person of sorts. I'm advising a number of companies, including BCG, somebody in Saudi Arabia, somebody in Mexico. But my favorite is working at Knauss. How do I hide this? Hide. Next to, yeah. Okay. But my favorite time is working with many of the partners at Brink. CJ is here. And I'm also teaching MBA students, undergrad students, AI, and that's the best thing you can do. You know, somebody asked me, why do you teach? So I didn't have a good answer. I went back, I did a lot of research. And what I found is when you read something, you retain only 10% of what you read. When you write something, you retain 20% of what you write. When you listen and read, you retain 30%. When you practice, you retain 50%. But when you teach, you learn 90%. Right? So it's the best way. If any of you want to teach, please raise your hand. It's the best experience I've had. Okay. I'm going to speed up. You know, I went to good schools. My day job is an investor. I invest in AI companies, direct companies, funds, and I've been reasonably, investments have been reasonably good for me. So I'm here to help you guys as a startup. I'm always looking for investing opportunities, so you know where to find me. Okay, so today, I'm going to keep it really simple. Just 3 takeaways. Number 1, AI is here. It's moving fast. We do not have the option to say, I'm going to wait. I'm going to see how it turns out. I'm going to see what other people are doing. Then I jump in. People did that with internet, with mobile, with cloud. It was okay. You cannot do that with AI. Number 2, AI is actually older than internet, mobile, cloud. It's as old as internet, mobile, and cloud combined. So what has happened? What can we learn from it? I'll talk about that. And number 3, actually AI is very different from what has happened. Okay, so today we'll look in the back so we can move forward in the next sessions. And every session, I put together some cheat sheets for you guys. You know, what newsletter to subscribe to, what book to read, what conferences to go. So I'll share that with you. And again, these slides will be available to you after the session. So 7.5 trillion. Anybody want to shout out what is 7.5 trillion? Yes. No? Mo, what is 7.5 trillion?
Get cap by 2030.
Market cap by 2030. Okay. So you guys have heard of the Mag 7. These are these 7 companies. The day of ChatGPT, they were worth 7.7 trillion. Over the last 9 quarters, they have added 7.5. They have doubled. These companies have existed for 10, 15, 20 years. Because of AI, the market cap has doubled. And by the way, it was 10 trillion 3 weeks ago. Last 3 weeks, it has been going down. But just think about it. Just these 7 companies, doubling in value. The US, I'll come to you. The US economy is 30 trillion. These guys are more than 50% of the US economy from a market cap perspective. Yeah.
That's strictly generative AI or just AI and.
Yeah. What's your
ChatGPT, so I'm guessing it's just strictly based off of generative.
Yeah. What's your name?
David.
David.
Yes.
Yeah. And so David's question is this because of generative AI or all AI? I would say this is primarily because of generative AI. I'll talk about the total AI impact but this is primarily because of generative AI. Right? Okay, what is 350 billion? Yes,
Investment?
investment. So those were public companies, Mag 7. At the end of Q4, December 31st, 350 billion was the market cap of the top 5 startups. By the way, this year has been crazy. OpenAI is 400 billion, Anthropic is 60 billion, Figure is 40 billion. So just over the last 10 weeks, we have added another 140 billion, right? So about $500 billion of new value created because of generative AI in the top 50. This does not include China. It is difficult to get data in China, from China. So again, I call this AI premium. 21 billion was the investment just in Q4. This year, just look at the right-hand side. The 4 companies, like billion is the new million, right? Just 4 companies are buying $315 billion worth of technology because of AI, right? So I did some work with McKinsey. McKinsey says by 2030, David, by 2030, that total value attributable to AI is 18 to 20 trillion. Gen AI is 3 to 4.5 trillion. Okay? The global economy is 120 trillion. Total AI, back of the envelope, is 20 trillion, 1 in 6. Gen AI is 1 in 4 of the AI. So this is not trivial. And these charts show the opportunity in each vertical sector. In the next session, we'll talk about the use cases in each sector and how people are implementing AI as we speak. Okay? You know, you look at Sequoia, you look at McKinsey, everybody's talking about AI as the next thing. You know, I spent a decade with the PC, a decade with cloud, and a decade with mobile. In the PC, we used to talk about getting to 100 million every decade. With internet and cloud, we used to talk about it every year. In mobile, we used to talk about months. With AI, we talk about weeks. So the pace of change is unbelievable. And if you look at people we admire, you know, AI is the new electricity. It's the biggest business opportunity. It will create more jobs than it destroys. I'll talk more about that. It is the next industrial revolution. These are very important people, right? They have done amazing things. If every one of them is saying what they are saying, we have to stand up. So AI is growing faster than previous technologies. It is truly global. Lots of people are investing. It will impact every sector. These are the mega trends I take away. Okay? So it is here. It is growing fast. We don't have an option to wait. We have to embrace it. So the question is, what can we learn from the past? Let's take a 100-year view. When was internet invented?
60 something.
92, 60 something? Huh?
Military had it first in like 1960 or 70.
Military had it first, 60, 70? 72? Okay. The technology, the internet, also called TCP/IP, was formalized. TCP/IP was formalized in 1983. It took 10 years for the internet to become accessible by us. It was in universities, research institutions, right? When did it become accessible to us? When the web browser came about. So the browser gave the internet a UX, and all of us would interact with it. Now, today we use internet and web interchangeably, but we really mean www, that's web, not internet, right? And once there was a UX, the growth took off. It is actually disappointing to me that we have 8 billion people today, but only 5 billion have access to the internet. When was mobile invented? Marty Cooper, our neighbor, he's the father of the cell phone. He made the first phone call in 1973, before the internet. It took 30 years for the cell phone to start growing. It was like puttering around. Why? Because it was like a machine. It was technology. It was not accessible to you and I. Once we got the iPhone, and you could say BlackBerry, then it had the browser moment. We could interact with it. That's when mobile took off, right? Now, mobile grew faster than the internet. There are 7 billion phones. I have 3 of them. So many people have multiple phones, but actually less than 5 billion people have a phone today. Okay? A cloud, same thing. AWS was born in 2003. It took 10 years. AWS did not have any competition for the first 8 or 10 years. Then we had Google jump in, Microsoft jump in. There were lots of devices. That's when cloud started taking off. So again, you needed a UX for the technology to take off. You know, AI started in 1950. It took 72 years for AI to start growing, because AI was happening maybe at universities and research institutions. It was not accessible to you and I. Once ChatGPT and Bard and Gemini came about, then it was accessible. And then it started growing, right? Conceptually, I'm showing AI is growing faster than internet, mobile, cloud. So this is, okay. So takeaways. Yeah.
Why do you say everyone on that one?
Yeah.
In terms of who has access?
So not today, but very soon, everyone will have access to AI, and we'll talk about that. So it's not today, but that's the slope. So the takeaways are, AI has actually been there longer, which means actually AI is very robust. So when we talk about, oh, I don't believe AI, oh, there are hallucinations, etc., actually that's not the truth. It is very robust. But because it has come to the forefront, because everyone, USA Today, GQ, everybody is using it, It doesn't work 100% of the time. I'll talk about that. And ChatGPT gave us the browser moment or the iPhone moment, right? It gave us the UX. So let's look at what happened so far. So I would say for the first 50 years or so, AI meant rules-based expert systems. Actually, I came from India. I went to University of Michigan. My master's was rules-based expert systems, right? That's what we called AI at the time. And there have been some seminal moments. So in 1950, the Turing test came about. How many of you know about the Turing test? Okay, so almost everybody knows about the Turing test. The Turing test says, have a person in one room, have a machine in the other room, ask them questions. Can you tell who's the human, who's the machine, right? And then Christopher Strachey, he developed the first AI algorithm. So in some ways, he's known as the father of AI. In 1956, John McCarthy, not the president, actually coined the term artificial intelligence. At the speech he gave, at Dartmouth. So that's the origin of when the term was coined. So if you think of Turing test as, can machines think like a human, right? If they are in two rooms, if the machine is able to answer my questions better than the human, or as good as the human, the machine is thinking like a human. If you guys have not watched this movie, I would encourage you to watch it, Electric Dreams. In this movie, there is a love triangle between a man, woman, and a machine. And I won't tell you who won, but the question is, can machines feel like a human, right? So today we are talking about reasoning and so on. This concept is not new. It was not as accurate then, but people were thinking about it in 1984. And of course, in 97, it's called the TV glue moment. Maybe 1 billion people watched at that time, IBM, Deep Blue, and Kasparov. And the machine won. And that was a game changer, right? All of this was basically rules-based expert system. And rules-based expert systems say, if the patient has fever, if the patient has rash, then they may have measles. So if then, and basically those are the rules. You can put all the rules in a machine and the machine can spit out the answer. So it is predictive in nature, right? That was wave 1 of AI. Let's go to wave 2. Wave 2 is what we think about as machine learning or big data. This is behavior-based. So if you bought X, you might like Y, right? That's behavior. And we have been using ML without actually knowing it. So how many of you use Amazon? Of course, everyone, right? If you buy something on Amazon, Amazon will chase you down, right? Amazon will tell you, you should buy this, this, this. Even if you don't buy on Amazon, if you just search on Amazon, it will chase you down. That is big data. That is ML. Google, Google got a lot of flack a couple years ago because of OpenAI. But the reality is Google has been using AI in search and ads for the last 20 years. When I search for University of San Diego, and when CJ searches for University of San Diego, actually our search results are not the same. They are different based on previous searches we have done. If I search for want to buy a car, and more searches for want to buy a car, he drives a Ferrari, he will say Porsche and so on. I drive a Honda, I'll see Honda, Toyota. So the search results are not the same. That's machine learning. That's big data. We have been using it without thinking of it as AI. Same thing with Netflix. My queue is different from your queue, right? Same thing with Uber. If I call Uber from here to La Jolla, and you call Uber from here to La Jolla, your car will be different, your price will be different, your driver will be different based on what we like, right? That's machine learning. So AI has been there. TikTok, the ultimate app, started with AI from the ground up. Amazon and Google and Netflix and Uber all added ML after they launched. TikTok launched with ML. So again, AI has been around. We've been using it. We just didn't think of it that way. So now, if I go to third wave, that's what we think of as generative AI. That's what we think of as ChatGPT. That's what we think of as LLMs. We are generating new data based on pattern matching. I'll talk more about that. But 22, ChatGPT, 23, just think of the pace of change. 23, multimodal. This year, reasoning, or last year, reasoning. Lot of discussion on agentic AI. Think of agentic AI as, don't just search for the ticket, buy it for me, right? And then I'm going to NVIDIA conference tomorrow. We'll talk about physical AI. So robots, humanoids. Okay, here's an interesting data point. As an investor, I have invested in so many companies. The VCs have invested in so many companies around SaaS, right? If you look at the size of the software industry, if you look at TAM for SaaS, it's about $800 billion. Less than $1 trillion. Now, think about physical AI. Physical AI is humanoids replacing people on the assembly line, on the manufacturing floor, on the construction site, when you're mining, and so on and so forth. That size, if you add up the human capital there, is about 20 trillion. If I can get 5% of that, that's going to be bigger than all SaaS opportunity, right? So there is so much action right now around robots and humanoids because the opportunity is significant. We'll talk about what it means in terms of people losing jobs and so on. But Tesla is, the market cap is what it is because of humanoids. There are lots of startups popping up left, right, center. their market cap is going through the roof because of this opportunity. So now let's go to, I happen to believe that the next 5 years will be big deal for generative AI. They'll continue, but increasingly we'll start seeing AGI. When I think of AGI, I think of the machine is better than the human. And no, AGI will not happen on a Thursday in 23 or 32. AGI will happen at different points in time. This chart, you guys cannot read it maybe. This says taking SAT test, different tests. Who's better at it today? Already, the language models are better than humans. So on that use case, we have already achieved AGI. The machine is better than human. A friend of mine runs this startup, Loom, L-U-U-M. It's basically autonomous makeup, right? Because they're starting with females, maybe they'll go to males. You want to get makeup done by the best person, by the best hairdresser, by the best whoever, but you cannot find that person. But now you can, right? You cannot see it. If you can, if this is more, if this is more empathetic, if this is more accurate, if this is the best at the same price or lower price, why would you not use it, right? How many of you have driven in a Waymo? Oh, one person, you guys don't know what you're missing. Waymo is in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, in Austin, in Miami, in LA. Huh?
Starting a pilot down here.
Yeah, a pilot is happening here.
They're making.
Don't wait for it. You guys should go to LA or someplace and try it. No, it is better than anything you have experienced. And Waymo is like, they are going city by city. Tesla, there are 3 million Teslas on the roads. One day, Tesla will turn on the switch. You will download the software. All Teslas will become autonomous. And all of a sudden, we'll have 3 million Teslas as autonomous cars. It is unbelievable. In the US, every year, 40,000 people are killed because of human error in an accident, in a car accident. If autonomous driving takes that number to 4,000 or 400 or 4, what could be better than that? Now, the first time Tesla or Waymo will have an accident, there will be a brouhaha. People will say, oh, we cannot trust this, etc., etc. What people, emotional reaction. What people will forget is the alternative is much, much worse than Waymo or Tesla or whoever comes, right? So if you believe that autonomous driving is better than human driving, we have AGI for that use case. Available in San Francisco, coming to San Diego soon, right? I'm doing a project with another entity around robotic surgery. And actually, Stanford did a research. It was a blind research. It was another form of Turing test. more patients like being treated by a robot than a human, because the robot was so kind. And a pleasure to speak to, right? So just think about this. When a robot is better than the human doctor, that's AGI. So AGI will not happen in a day. It will happen in waves. It will happen use case by use case. So a simple way to think about this is, before ChatGPT, AI was there. We were using it every day. Every time you used Google or Amazon or Netflix or Uber, you were using AI. It was expert system or ML. We didn't know about it. We didn't talk about it as if we were using AI, right? Only the research scientists were talking about it like that. So in some ways, the storm was brewing, but it was invisible to us. Now, every one of us is becoming a creator. Every one of us is using generative AI to create pictures and video and animation and marketing and logos and PowerPoint and poetry and software code, right? And then when we get to AGI, the productivity improvements will be so significant that maybe we will not need to work. We would work only if we want to work. Or we don't need to work 5 days or 6 days a week, or 7 days in my case, right? And when you want to work, that's when you do your best work. So I think this is so much to be excited about. Okay, so if you Google history of AI, this is what you'll get. First wave, you see ups and downs, ups and downs. So there were at least 2 AI winters when people gave up on AI. This was in expert systems. But then when we got to big data ML, see, things are moving up and to the right. My prediction is this will continue with wave 3. So I don't see a slowdown or hype cycle, etc. I think there is so much opportunity here that we are at the beginning. Okay, so watching time, we don't have time to go into excruciating detail. But if you're wondering, what is generative AI? I've heard about this. How does it really work? This is the best source of information. It's like an interactive website. Go to this website, spend 10, 15 minutes. You learn so much. I did. And just to summarize, generative AI came into existence when Google wrote this paper, Attention is All You Need, in 2017. So Google was the first one to think about this. And basically, LLM is based on the transform model. What the LLM does is it tries to simulate how we think. And using the LLM, we are generating all these media things based on different prompts. If you look under the hood, here's where it gets technical. So bear with me. So think of every word. In the AI world, people don't talk about words. People talk about tokens. So there is a price or cost per token. Each token can be a word or parts of the word. And then I'm reading this left-hand side here. So you have multiple tokens. Then there is this concept called word embedding. It captures the relationship between tokens. Relationships can be meaning or they can be structure. So these are the words. These are the relationships. And then there is this concept called self-attention. Self-attention basically says which tokens are most important, which ones are most used, what is the probability of using each word, who has the highest probability. And then you get this encoded output. And then the other concept is beam search. So instead of just predicting the next word using encoded output, you predict the whole phrase. That's called beam search. If you guys heard about DeepSeek, DeepSeek used this very successful. Okay, I can spend an hour on this. We have a very diverse audience. So if you're interested, play with this website and reach out to me if you have questions. Okay. So AI is not new. It has been around for 75 years. It is faster than internet, mobile, cloud. So the question is, what can we learn from those past revolutions? First, when you think about internet, mobile, cloud, think about the primary value proposition was saving cost. If you think about Amazon, you were buying a book before, you were reading paper, now you're buying a book on the website. It is either coming to you in physical form or in digital form. But in either case, you're buying a book, right? It is cheaper. It is more convenient. It has scale. But the use case actually did not change. Internet, mobile, cloud basically gave us a foundation for scaling. It impacted some sectors more than others. So retail, financial services, a couple others. But it didn't really do anything in healthcare. It didn't really do anything in education. If you look at internet, mobile, cloud penetration around the world, it's about 7%. 7%. In the US, it's about 20%. In other parts of the world, it is much lower, right? So these things have been there for 20, 25 years. The primary impact has been here. I will contrast this with AI. In the short term, AI is about faster, better, cheaper. AI is about saving cost. AI is about improving productivity. AI is about increasing efficiency. But in the long run, AI is not just about saving cost. It is about bringing new use cases, doing things we have not been able to do before. I'll give you some examples. In healthcare, drug discovery. Despite the amount of investment, we have not been able to solve cancer or diabetes or Alzheimer's. Why is that? Because it takes like 12 or 15 years for the clinical trial process. And 95% of the time it fails. And there is not enough money in the world to run all the permutations. AI is changing that. AI will discover cure for cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. That's a game changer. That's a new use case. Second use case, Do you guys know how effective, Bobby, do you know how effective is melatonin?
No idea.
It's about 40% effective. So when you take melatonin, it goes to your entire body. Actually, sleep is determined in your brain. So if it goes to the entire body, maybe 2, 3, 4% goes here, right? It is a kind of chemical, so it has side effects. And if you take melatonin 7 days in a row, on the 7th day, it is much less effective than the first day, right? The reason is melatonin is designed for the average you, for the average DNA, for the average lifestyle. But none of you is average, right? Personalized medicine, where it is designed for you, based on your lifestyle, based on your eating habits, based on your DNA, is going to be much more effective. I invested in this startup. They are like 88, 89% effective. And they are sweating about, they are not 99%, 100% effective. But then when they share, compared to the alternative, they are twice as effective. That's a game changer. So, Jay, I'm teaching a class. Is this important? I'll call you back. So first, AI will impact every industry. In the short term, you hear about cost cutting, efficiency. In the long run, it's new use cases. No, AI is not just Silicon Valley. So if you look at internet, it primarily happened in Silicon Valley. If you look at mobile, the modern mobile, iPhone, Android, it primarily happened in Silicon Valley, maybe BlackBerry in Canada. If you look at cloud, it happened, it happened in Silicon Valley, Google, Microsoft, and Seattle, Microsoft and Amazon. AI, we have 195, 96 countries. AI is right now happening in 100 plus countries. No, people are not looking at Silicon Valley invention so they can copy it. More than 100 countries are creating their own language model. In India, there are 100 language models. Prime Minister Modi said, AI is compute. He was talking to Jensen. Compute, everybody is getting compute from NVIDIA right now. AI is language model. AI is data. Prime Minister Modi said, India has more data than anybody else in the world, right? India has bazillion languages, so on and so forth. It makes no sense for India to ship the data to OpenAI so they can train the model and ship it back. So India is doing its own language model. There are about 100 language models in India. There are about 1,000 language models in the US. There are about 70 language models in China. So AI is not happening in one place. AI is happening every place. If you look at internet, mobile, cloud, statistics says we created more jobs than we destroyed. If you go to UK or New York, there are these phone booths. The people who were doing phone booths, that job went away, right? But so many more jobs were created. The same thing is happening in AI. This is 23 data. It's old. I don't have 24 data. In 23, the big guys laid off 140,000 people. They were about 10,000 startups. This is in Silicon Valley. 140,000 layoffs in 23. 10,000 startups were created in Silicon Valley. On average, 10 people. Just in 1 year, AI startups created 100,000 jobs. I bet 24 data is the other way around, right? Okay, so my time is mostly up. We think about the PC as the center of the universe. Last couple of decades, we thought about the phone. As we move to agents, there's a new device coming. The phone is very good, but it's not the perfect device for agents. The phone is the perfect device for apps. PC was the perfect device for the web. When you think about agents, Google, Apple, Samsung, a few startups, they are cooking up new form factors. I'm going to skip this. Actually, I won't. If you look at these 5 companies, it took them 5 to 6 years to go IPO. At IPO, their valuation was 5 billion. Today, their valuation is 490 times. If you look at the top 3 AI companies today, they were founded in this year. If they were to go IPO this year, then the average would be roughly 1.5x. The average valuation is 175 billion. It's already 33x. If they were to go IPO at this price, with 4x, with 57x, we'll get to 10 trillion kind of valuation. 4 times the top 5 guys, right? So I have a friendly bet with my friend Bobby that NVIDIA will get to 10 trillion, but the next company will be one of these startups. They will surprise us. Okay, so AI is similar in internet mobile cloud in that we are sitting at the knee of the hockey stick. More jobs will be created than lost. New AI devices coming. It is different because it has been around much longer. It is ramping much faster. It will change every sector. It is truly a global phenomenon. And it will create the first $10 trillion company. So 3 simple takeaways. AI is here. It's growing fast. It is not new. It has been around for 75 years. We are in the 3rd wave. There's a lot we can run. We can learn from the past tech revolutions. So let me just end with a few cheat sheets. So just for you guys, I put together this cheat sheet. These are the top AI newsletters. No, I'm not endorsing any one of them. You can have it as a desktop on your PC. And then for any one of these, you just click here. Right? These are hyperlinked. So you can subscribe and have the pulse of the latest AI news every morning or every week or whatever. Here are the top AI books. If you guys are into reading books, these are the ones to pursue. So I'm an advisor at Brink. Steve runs Brink. Give him a big hand. We have a very strong team. Pratyusha is here. Erika is not feeling well, and Amy is not feeling well. But then we have a strong set of advisors. I don't have the latest list. We have about 20 advisors. They specialize in different areas. So I'm the advisor for AI company. There is an advisor for legal, for finance, etc., etc. And if you're not already part of Brink, you can sign up. It's totally free to startup founders, right? And if I count the years of experience this group has is like, let's say, 13 times 30. So they have like 400 years. Bobby has a little more. I'm just pulling it in. But it's a very experienced advisor group. Okay. All right. If you really want to whet your appetite, we are holding this AI conference in 2 weeks on the 29th of March. We have a full day agenda lined up. I'm part of the TIE group. This is the inaugural AI conference. You guys are welcome to sign up. And next week, we'll talk about opportunities across different verticals and different functions. So let me take a breath. Today, it's important to have perspective on where we have come from, so we can better appreciate the opportunity in front of us and truly seize it. I went through it pretty fast, but you guys will have the slides. If you have questions, reach out to me. Our time is up, but I'll stay as long as you stay. So, Pratyusha, do you have a couple hot questions? Yeah.
The question goes, what would you say are best practices for token management in AI to ensure optimal performance and scalability?
Yeah, who's asking the question?
Brett.
Brett, let's take it offline. It's probably only a couple people care about this. So we'll take it offline. Next question. How do I bring up the menu? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, so there are 49 people on the bridge still. If you guys have questions, please put it in chat. David had a question in the meantime. David, question.
I use perplexity to answer it. Generative AI answered it.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions, guys? I logged into the class late.
Go back to the resources slide and maybe prioritize or help us understand, like, if you're interested in this, these are the best ones to start with. I look at that and I just go, wow, that's a lot. And I want to dive in, but I want to be realistic about where I should start.
I'll go there. How do I get advisory from my AI company? Just reach out to me or Stephen. We'll figure it out. Manish. Okay, we will send you to the right person. Okay. So, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Here's a tip for
I
you.
need somebody to take reading all of these and then giving me the summary.
Yeah, no, practice what we preach. Take this slide,
Put it in AI.
put it on ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to summarize or segment these. Which ones are real time, which ones have more detailed analysis, etc. So you can have it your way.
Ask for a link that works, too.
Yeah.
If you had to have back surgery, would you wait or would you have it done today?
If I had to have back surgery,
Where you could wait in a lot of discomfort or and have AI do it, right? Like with such precision and whatever advancements, or take the risks that are inherent with it today.
yeah. What's your name?
Kyle.
Kyle. Kyle, this reminds me of a story. I was working on laptops when I was at Intel. And we launched like Pentium 4 laptop. And I called a friend. I said, you've been waiting to buy a good laptop. This is a very good laptop. You should buy it. He says, I think I'll wait for next year. It will be better. Next year, we launch the next set of laptops. I'm going to wait another year. I called him like last week. He was still waiting. So don't make the mistake. If you have to get surgery, get it now, get it often. That's it. Okay. Other questions? Yeah, Ricardo has an answer for you. But guys, this is a lot of fun. It's more fun. We had like 55 people at one point. It's more fun if you guys are in the room. So maybe next time, come to the room. We'll have some, where is Steve? I'll sign him up. We'll have some samosas. Yes, Bobby.
Pankaj, in the alternative universe, tell me what could go wrong in the next few years
Yeah.
that none of this works.
Yeah.
This is this is the risk part of the de-risking. Like we don't get to the 10 trillion, some of these companies fail, or some of them will, or they'll be merged, absorbed, their strategies will change. But can you give me the alternative universe of where AI doesn't prove to be as wonderful as we want it to be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We'll have a full hour discussion in class 4, but short answer today. Has internet done more good than harm? More good.
TBD.
More harm. Okay. So in the class, in the room, 80% said internet has done more good, but 20% are not sure. Has mobile done more good than harm? More good. More harm. Okay. 4 of you don't want to vote. But I would argue that mobile has connected all of us. The good way, way, way outweighs the unintended consequences around, Facebook, other things we can talk about. I would say the same thing with internet. The unintended consequences are much, much less than the amount of good. If anything, the amount of good that AI can do is 10 times, 100 times bigger. The challenges are, I'll take one at a time. Hallucination. Is it a bug or a feature? When you ask ChatGPT to write a poetry, it's hallucinating. Is that a bug? In that case, it's a feature. Bank of America had people you would call. When you call 800 number, you talk to Bank of America. They gave correct answers only 39% of the time. Then they replaced it with a chatbot. The chatbot today is accurate 86% of the time. So you can say, well, 14% of the time it is hallucinating. But if you look at the glass half full, right, the good is much. So hallucination, and things are moving so fast in very short period of time. The percent accuracy will continue to go up. Number one. Number two, regulation. I grew up in the internet era. It took 15 years for the first congressional hearing on internet. AI, since ChatGPT, there have already been so many attempts, right? People are paying attention. You may or may not like the answer, but the first thing you have to do is recognize the problem. And people are recognizing that from a regulation perspective, right? Geopolitical. It's good that AI is happening in 100 countries around the world. The risk is, if 100 countries are running at the same time, US doesn't want to slow down because China will get ahead. China doesn't want to slow down because India will get ahead. There is a risk of fragmentation. But I think that risk is much smaller than the pace of change, pace of progress they are making. Legal issues, data privacy issues. So Bobby, it's a good drinks debate. Like any technology, this is not without its shortcomings, without unintended consequences. But on the weighing scale, it is tipping in one direction by a huge margin. I'll come to you. Yes.
Different kind of question, but overlapping a little bit. When you look at the jobs, and we know every technology always has a fear of jobs going down.
Yeah.
How do you see the more, if you go a little bit deeper into the types of skills needed in the areas that are growing will be a much more AI-centric set of skills, which is actually even a smaller percentage of the current workforce today. And the other workforce is being replaced with productivity. So do you see a division where even though there may be more technical jobs, what happens to the rest of the workforce? Because they're continuing to get almost a trough between the two, either in AI development or you're not. And you could actually then be sort of an unintended consequence of that.
It's a good question. We should debate it. What's your name?
Michael.
Michael. 4 or 5 months ago, I had the honor of going to the Tesla factory in Austin. The assembly line is a mile long. 5 of us were in a golf cart. You couldn't fall. Over a mile, we saw 2 humans. Everything else are robots. Some are like Optimus. So we were talking to the supervisor there. He had come from GM. And one of us asked this question. So many jobs have been displaced. How do you feel about that? And I'll get to the retraining. And he said, I worked at GM for 30 years. This person, he retired after 30 years. His job, 8 to 5, 5 days a week, 52 weeks or 50 weeks, was to sit in front of the tire, take the tire, screw the 5 screws, and then do it again. He did that for 30 years. Is that a job? Or is that menial labor, right? If that job is taken by a robot, that's a good thing. So robots will take away jobs that people don't want to do or cannot do, right? Like in construction, a robot is going to be much more safer, on a skyscraper, or in mining, much more safer in the ground, right? So in the short term, yes, these jobs will go away. By the way, this is not just blue collar, white collar. Now you can buy ChatGPT, deep research, $20,000. It is supposedly better than a McKinsey consultant. You pay $300,000 for a McKinsey consultant, right? There has to be a massive retraining exercise. People are talking about it. Governments are talking about it. The Googles and Amazons are talking about it, right?
It's different than any other technology before with that quick of a turn, right?
Exactly. The fact that we are talking about it, talking about the problem is 80% of the way there, right? But I don't have any, I'll come to you, Bobby. I don't have any illusion that this will change overnight, right? But when the cycle completes, it will take multiple years, maybe a decade. The quality of jobs will be much better, right? The overall economy will be much better. An example I would give is we talk about manufacturing jobs going away from the US over the last 20, 30 years. But guess what? Over the last 20 years, the economy of the US doubled. The productivity doubled. So if you take a 1 year, 2 year view, yes, there will be pain. But longer term, I think this will be for the better.
It follows the money follows the jobs, because that's really what it comes down to, is how the people who are not trained.
Yeah.
Also get the money to live.
Yeah, so money is, jobs follow value. Money is a way to represent value, right? But if there is so much money, then we will not appreciate money as much. We'll appreciate value. Let me keep moving. Daniel was first, and I'll come to you. Yeah.
So I think you were saying like compute algorithms, data. So I was just thinking different choke points. So with the data, I remember when ChatGPT first came out, it was only up to like 2023, 2020 or whatever. So I think there could be a limit on the data. And if you work for certain companies, they say do not use ChatGPT on or with client data. So I'm just saying data is a limiting factor in terms of it's being hoarded. And there's going to be a point where ChatGPT has absorbed all the data. So do you see either the data, the compute, or any of these choke points slowing the progress?
Yeah. Short answer, no. Longer answer. Let's look at the three. Data. We talk about LLMs. LLMs are large language models for general purpose. They use general purpose data from the internet. By the way, yes, when the first ChatGPT came out, the data was until here. 3 months later, it was here. 6 months later, it was here. So it's not static, right? It's moving really fast. But what is happening is, we talk about OpenAI, we talk about ChatGPT, Gemini, Meta, a couple others. There are 995 language models we don't talk about. They are generally not general purpose. I call them DLMs, domain-specific language model, for healthcare, for biotech, for financial services, for architecture, right? There, the data is the new oil. If you're one of the pharma companies and if you have a lot of data, you're not going to put it out on the web. You can get compute. You can get algorithm. Algorithm is basically equation. That's your secret sauce. The India example I gave, same thing, right? Then we talk about PLMs, personal language model. Apple Intelligence is personal language model because the language model is trained on your personal data. Now you can say, well, Apple is off to a bad start. Yeah, if you take a 1 quarter view, you might be right. But if you take the long view, training on your personal data will be another trend. And third one is what I call CLMs, country-specific language model. So Saudi Arabia has more money than they know what to do with, right? They are creating their own language model. They're like, why should we import from the US? We got money. It's a quiz. India is 1.4 billion people. Only 4.5 million emigrated to the US, first generation. Then, they had kids, but only 4.5. Do you know how many people have emigrated to Middle East, which is, 10 times smaller or 20 times smaller than the US? 3.5 million. Incredible, right? Why is that? Because, Saudi Arabia and basically Middle East, Dubai and so on, they are throwing money because they want to do their own thing. So data, you have to take different lenses. Language model, people are doing their own language model. Compute, NVIDIA is king today. I've done a lot of work on NVIDIA analysis. There is competition brewing. There will be alternatives. But I don't think, I don't think you can shut down NVIDIA, right?
But there's electricity too, is it?
Yes, Bobby.
Well, first of all, thank you for your wisdom, because it's always interesting to hear since you're deep into this. The second part is it would be good to have a panel sometime, have the discussion of the implications of these particular future. We can look back in history, and people don't like to look back in history because it doesn't mean that the future is going to be completely based on that. But I can give you an example of going to the largest manufacturing facility in the United States for Sony displays in 1994 that was based here, 1 million square feet, just like you described the Tesla plant. Little did they know in 10 years from then that they were going to be obsolete in terms of their technology. Now, we're talking about software mostly with hardware in the future today. So it's difficult to predict. And the concern I have is more of the structurally what the world is going to look like. And I'm curious if you have an opinion on it, because you've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, is what's going to happen to the other, 50 or 60 or 7% of the world who may not come along with this. In other words, the guy who was just doing the bolts, he may not want to do something else. He may love doing bolts for 30 years, or the person serving food who now has a little robot that goes along and the economics don't make sense. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it's a longer
It's
discussion.
not you personally, I'm just giving you,
Yeah.
global
No,
perspective. I'm curious because you're living in this world more than I am.
Yeah, so yes, we should have a panel. Yes, these things should be discussed. The very fact that we are discussing this, the very fact, when I teach the class is 7 to 10. People start standing up. Ashruti knows. People start standing up at 9:50, right? The very fact that so many of you haven't moved. And in the chat, we still have 32 people. Says, we are interested. We want to talk about it. That's good. Number two, if I knew which number to put the roulette ball, I'll be in Vegas today, right? Or if I knew which stock will go up tomorrow, then I won't diversify. So there is a certain amount of uncertainty. Nobody really knows. Number three, I can go on, but number three, last point. Today, there is about 10 gigawatt of data center capacity around the world. 10 gigawatt. 50% of it is in the US, in the Virginia corridor. Right? You have to ask, wow, why there, right? So 5 is there, 5 in other parts of the world. About 2.5, 2.7 is in China and then other parts. The expectation of smart people, smarter than all of us, is by the end of this decade, we will have 120 to 130 gigawatt of data center capacity. If I just look at this year, right? Stargate, 500 billion, MBS, 600 billion, Google, Amazon, blah, 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 right? If you just add the numbers, they add up to about 1.6, 1.7 trillion just over the last 10 weeks. Even if 50% of them come true, that's bigger than investment over the last 5 years in data centers, right? So, when DeepSeek thing happened, I had a simple slide. On the one slide, on the one side, I had DeepSeek, China founder, never heard of him. He runs a hedge fund. He made more money on NVIDIA, shorting NVIDIA, than the investment he had made to date, $1 billion. On the other side, Sundar, CEO of Google, Satya, CEO of Microsoft, Zuckerberg, CEO of blah, 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 right? And the question is, who do you believe? Right? People who believed on this side lost a lot of money. I doubled down. So I'm sitting pretty. Okay, yes,
Oh. So, you're talking about uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds fear. It also breeds curiosity. So, I've got a startup that, we're working on an agent and behavioral, but I think the fear that comes up is to be swallowed so quickly by the speed of everything that's going on, but at the same time, it's like to stop would be like a real shame for the knowledge that we're getting by going down this path. And so I guess the question is like, for any startups that are looking to create something in particularly like the software or conversational space, looking at how fast these things are progressing, how do you even begin to project, like, do we continue or do we pivot to something? It's very, it's a strange space to be.
yeah. Two comments. One,
Yeah.
most startups will go out of business. But the ones remaining will make more money than we can imagine. Number one. Number two, if you know the future, why would you not go there? So quiz, 2009. If you guys know the answer, don't answer. 2009, if you bought $1 of gold, how many dollars will you have today? Yes, Tracy,
No,
make a guess.
um,
It's a safe space.
two.
$2. Any other answers? $2.
You say $1 or 1 ounce?
$1.
I don't know what it was an ounce at $1, but today at 1 ounce is 3,000 plus.
If you put $1, today we'll have,
Chat.
I think
Right.
the right answer is $3. Gold has been going up, $3, okay? If you put $1 in Bitcoin in 2009, how much would you have today? Tracy,
2009, probably,
True.
no, I would say, 80,000.
80,000. Going once, yes. Other comments? Comments on chat? Yeah, just shout it out. Pratyusha,
A wild guess would be 800.
100,000,
800.
800,000,
5 million, 5 million.
5 million. When ChatGPT hit, Bitcoin hit more than 100,000. It went to $100 million. Right now it's back to about 90 million.
From $1?
Yes.
Oh, because it was less than it, right? So it's like point, whatever.
Yeah. So if you know, if you had known then what you know now,
Remember one thing, it's if you sold it, you have nothing until you sell it. I just
Yeah.
want to make that point.
yeah.
As an investor.
You shouldn't have sold and bought,
If you-
right?
if you sat around, you can watch it go down.
It went down and it went up, but $1 became 90 million US dollars. Okay?
So that's my.
Now that's the question, right? With AI, if you look at all of the trends, if you look at all of the things that are happening, if we are here, it has to be here. The question is, are you pursuing the idea to take you there? Right? Most startups will fail, most ideas will fail. But the big ones will be the biggest ones. Sold Bitcoin to buy a pizza, yes.
So, this is a bit more philosophical and psychological. Is that okay?
Yeah.
But-
I have to teach a class in 10 minutes, so that's the cutoff point.
All right.
Yeah, I'm holding Stephen, but Stephen, this is such an engaging discussion. We should have had this for 2 hours. Yeah, and guys on the bridge, ask questions, we can see you. Yes,
Yeah, this is for a friend who's an MBA with an HR focus, and she does a lot of consulting. So AI, we've been probably using it every day for a year plus. It's very positive and, oh, you're so smart and wonderful. And in time, there's a fear, concern that humans will lose sight of interacting with other humans who aren't so positive and encouraging. And I know this is probably going to be in session 4. I personally have researched a lot of growth in AI ethics and compliance and, what countries are doing in that realm, but I haven't found anything yet on the emotional aspect, like those people, like the video you recommended. There was a Wall Street article, a woman left her husband for AI and all kinds of stuff like that. So have you seen anything on the emotional aspect of AI?
there's a lot of stuff out there. Maybe look at the latest trend is AI companions, AI boyfriend, AI girlfriend. Do you know where it is most prominent? Japan.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, because do you know the #1 use case in healthcare in Japan? No. Get me an AI companion. Get me an AI caretaker. Actually, research has proven that, we talk about, oh, I want to talk to human because the human is more empathetic, etc. Right? In blind tests, actually the machine is more dependable, always polite, more Tracy is shaking.
But we lose sight of our humanity.
Huh?
Of course, it's better and more efficient, but we lose sight of our humanity,
What is humanity?
imperfection, connection on imperfection.
Predictable imperfection is a machine. Machine is predictable imperfection. But here's the thing. What's your name?
Anton, this is good.
Anton.
Sorry, you gotta go.
No. I think the God from Omaha says, when there is fear, be greedy. When there is greed, be fearful, right? So it's okay for people to have fear. We'll go start a startup and be greedy, and it's okay. Not everybody will have the same point of view, and it's okay. Last thing I would say is, when we say human touch, empathy, humanity, I think it is a figment of our imagination. Because if I close your eyes and in blind test, if you find the machine to be more humane, with Stanford, then that puts the definition of humanity upside down, right? Okay, guys, why don't we wrap here? Hey, guys, thank you so much. People in the room,